Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going old school. We're bringing out the 5-inch hula grub by Yamamoto, one of my all-time favorite baits, and for whatever reason I've put it on the shelf the last couple of years, even though I give this single bait credit for me wanting to be a professional angler. I'll share that story with you as we go fishing. So let's go see if we can catch a few bass on a nice fall day. Oh, what do we got? Nice smallmouth. All because I was able to bring that up over that log. Come here. That's a good one. Oh, hula grub. Tungsten football head combo. That's a good one. God, there's a nice colored fish. Awesome. Let's get her back. You guys won't be able to see that, but what I did is I cast up over that base and I dragged it up and over, and I can do that because of the weed guard. That's one thing like you couldn't do before. You know, ideally you should fish this on a football head style. So in order to fish that, you could do it with a Texas rig, but you don't get the same setup. You don't get the same kind of crayfish skittering. You know, your Texas rig goes more vertical. And I do think that makes a big difference, but that was 100% because I was able to fish the weedless tungsten head through there. He was sitting on this side of the log, picked it up. It's a nice fish. All right, number one. There's one. Not a big one. What do we got? A little small. All right, so I figure I'd show you the setup since I just got bit off by a pike. We are getting this all rigged up. So what we're using here, this is a Picasso tungsten football jig head, but the cool thing about it is it's got a weed guard on it that's made of titanium. So these three little guys are gonna allow me really to flip this around. I'm in a little river section, so I'm fishing rock, fishing a little bit of wood. But the cool thing is the weed guard, you don't find softer weed guards like this on most football jigs. You also don't easily find a good football jig that has a nice, it's a 2x strong hook, so it's not a big beefy hook, which when you're using a hula grub, so these are some old ones here. These are 5-inch, this is just watermelon red, red and black flake. But when you find most football jig heads, they have too big of a hook. In this case, you can get these in various sizes. This is just a nice 3/8 ounce tungsten head, so I have a really good feel of the bottom. I know when I'm in the rock, I know when I'm in the sand or in the mud, and you're just gonna thread this right up. It's a very simple setup, nothing hard to do, but it really kind of replaces, it's almost like a finesse jig, if you want to say it that way. I mean, you've got a skirt, you've got body, you've got your trailer all in one compact thing, but this bait alone is a straight up killer. This thing will catch everything. Every species of bass loves them. I'm really planning on bringing it back into my arsenal for next year's tournament season. I said I was going to this year, and I really just didn't have a good opportunity to do that. But looking at my schedule for next year, I definitely see some opportunities. it's just it's one of those baits that puts fish in the boat. Like when fishing's really tough, you can just put them in the boat. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It catches them, big, little, everything in between, and you can fish it. You don't have to drag it just like a jig. I've had really good days flipping docks with it. You can Texas rig it. You know, you can fish it in a number of different ways. My favorite is obviously on a football jig head, and then I'll just like dragging it around on little rock bars, little gravel points. I really like to fish weed lines with it too, to be honest with you. Same setup, I just take it and I'll rip it right through weed lines. It's really good for that as well. But don't underestimate the power of these hula grubs. They really are fish catching machines, and when you pair it up with the right head, which is like the biggest part to this, you don't want to go too big on your football jig head. You can use Arky styles with it if you want, but a lot of times those generally don't give you the same feel. They don't come through the same cover quite as nice. So you really want to throw a good football jig head. This tungsten one, Owner used to have one called the Owner Ultra Head, a football jig head style. It was the Ultra Head series. I think they still make it. That's a good hook as well. You're really just looking for, you know, something that fits the bait well. That's the hard part about it. And this Picasso tungsten football jig head with the weed guard's the killer. And that's what I love about it, is the weed guard. It allows me really, like, I'm coming up to a log jam and I'll pitch it up and around that and get it through nice and clean. That's the thing. You can't find any other football jig heads that are more finessey in style and size that have a good weed guard. They're all generally too big and too fibrous, which isn't what you want on a hula grub. Another little small. Ooh, wow. Somebody tapped her. Oh, that feels good. Oh, good largemouth. Big largemouth. Nice. Come here. Nice one. That's another good one. That's probably another, I don't know, 3.5. Nice one. On the hula grub, Aaron Martin's tungsten football head by Picasso, guys. And gotta tell you, this is a combo I'm bringing back. I am definitely bringing back. All right, so there's a couple of ways, you know, really to fish it. There's no wrong way to fish a hula grub, in my opinion. But, you know, obviously just dragging it up there, I'm looking for little gravel patches. You know, this is a nice rock bank, but a lot of that rock doesn't come off the bank at all. You'll find little stretches where there's little gravel that comes off, and I can feel that really well. So, I mean, I'm using it like a typical football jig head. Rod tip down, just dragging it, trying to feel everything. Whether it's a stick, whether it's sand, whether it's a gravel patch, just trying to feel everything that's down there. And if I feel something good, then I might let it sit a little longer. Maybe I make a second cast at it. So that's one way. The other way is to fish it more like a jig, you know, where you're actually fishing it up and around cover. There was a bite. There it is. Not a big one. Smallmouth. So the other way is to fish it up and around like a jig. You know, I just pitched up around the stump over it, and you hit it that way. So I mean, rod tip up, you're just basically bringing it through cover. Because you've got a weed guard on it, you can go ahead and do that. Definitely the two best ways to go ahead and fish it, in my opinion. You can even fish them through the water column up a little bit. A lot of people like to fish them more. A lot of people actually will remove one leg to make a single twister and then fish it for suspended fish. You used to be able to buy a single twister tail. I don't know if they still actually sell a single twister tail, but you can just remove one leg and you pretty much accomplish the same thing. But it's a really good bait to swim through the middle of the water column on like a darter head. Largemouth. Not a big one. Not a dink. So this is just one of my all-time favorite colors that I'm using. Just the green pumpkin, red and black flake. I actually like to leave them out in the sun because they will change color. They almost get a little bit more of a, I don't know, a camo look to it. And, you know, you can see it's not quite as green as it was when we started. I generally always do that because I do think it looks a little bit more natural. But if you don't want them to fade, at least the old ones, I don't know if the newer Yamamotos fade as much, but the old ones really did fade quite a bit. That was a little bluegill or something. Give them another shot. But any of your natural colors will work just fine. Green pumpkins, watermelons, browns, cinnamon, those are generally going to be your best. If you're in really muddy water, you can go with your blacks and black and blues, but generally speaking, anytime I'm using this, it's going to be more and a little clear. I mean, this isn't clear, but it's still got a foot, maybe a little bit more visibility. It's not muddy. If it were muddy, I'd be throwing more of an actual jig. But in this case, this is more of a finesse-y approach, and I know this place gets pounded pretty good. So to be able to follow it up with a more finesse bait, that's just going to get you more bites. Another smallmouth, decent one. Golly, they're strong. Strong. God dang. Thinks he's a lot bigger than he is. He's only like pound and 3/4. But he thinks he's a tough one. What is going on here? Alright, well, on that note, I think we're gonna leave it at that. Better practice my BPT release. If you're not using some hula grubs with a tungsten football jig head like this guy by Picasso, you're probably missing out a little bit, because it is one of the best all-time fish catching lures we have, in my opinion. And I'll be using more of them in the future. I'd put it on the shelf for a few years, just waking back up to it, but man, it catches the fire out of them. All right, guys, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, going a little old school, trying to bring back an old school lure. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comment section. If you got a favorite hula grub color, let others know in the comment section. And stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.